My first week in the mission, it's hard to describe my feelings because I was very grateful to be there, but I knew that I had what seemed like at the very beginning a long 2 years ahead of me. But I was so grateful to be there. That doesn't take away from any gratitude or excitement I had about being on a mission. It was a great blessing to have my first companion be who he was. His name was Elder Yamashita from Japan. And when we were receiving our trainers, we had 16 new missionaries, and the mission president would, of course, choose which trainer was going to go with each new missionary. And I was the last to be chosen, and so I knew I was going to be with this Japanese companion. And I was very grateful just off the bat to have him as a companion. He lived a very pure, simple, and just lived as a disciple of Jesus Christ. He had a very strong conversion story like 2 years before he went on a mission. And it was an incredible, I would call it a miracle to have him as a companion. And so right off the bat, although feelings, of course, were kind of everywhere, after the first evening of being in our area, it just took off. And I was blessed to be able to just focus on the work. I spoke English, and so I didn't have to learn a new language. I didn't have that. And so the first week we just took off and started to work right away, diligently, and we're blessed with miracles. I shouldn't say I reached the climax of my mission, but when it really started to pick up, when I didn't have feelings of homesickness, which I experienced a few early on, but when I didn't experience homesickness and when I could just fully focus on the work and not worry about, things going on at home. It was in my first area, and I credit it to my companion. And I don't know specifically when in my first area it started to pick up, but I was there for 2 transfers, and I can probably say in the first transfer, crediting it to him and our area and my mission president. And I just wanted to work hard. I had a lot of weaknesses, but having the desire to work hard really helped those not seem as big in my mind. The Washington-Seattle mission is different from other missions because we had to run everywhere we went. It was a rule to run everywhere we went with my first mission president. So for the first 9 months of my mission, we ran everywhere we went. From door to door, from the church to our car, everywhere. And of course, following the Spirit, you meet someone, talk with them, following the Spirit not to pass people up. We read about that in the scriptures. But that was a rule. And that's one way it differs. And that blessed me a lot, just to be diligent and to work hard and to not waste any time. One of the main reasons we ran everywhere and why it became a rule is to hasten ourselves as missionaries. And when my first mission president left after 9 months, President and Sister Che came in and they established it not as a rule, but as a suggestion to keep running. And so I ran for my whole mission. And yes, I lost weight from running so much, but that's just one way that it is different than other missions that I hadn't heard of before, and I was grateful for that. Another way it differs is the culture. Seattle is a melting pot, one of the most diverse places in the United States. I served in 5 different areas. I served in South Seattle in a city called Skyway, which is very diverse. And there's people and religions from everywhere, from Africa, from the Polynesian Islands, from Japan, from China, there were Hispanics, there were Americans, there were Europeans, almost from all over the world, a lot of Indians as well. And that was my very first picture I knew of Seattle, and it stuck in my mind for the whole time because I met people from everywhere. And with those people came their religions. And so that was a very new experience for me growing up here in Utah. So that's one way. The second way that it differed, the weather. It rains a lot. Which my second mission president said, when it rains, drink it. As a more of an attitude, to be grateful for the rain and not to be depressed, be down, be discouraged about it, but to drink it. More as a symbolic attitude to have towards the rain. It was cloudy and rainy a lot, and so, but with the rain came beautiful weather in the summertime. So that was awesome because it was very humid and very warm. Those are a few of the ways that the Washington-Seattle mission differs, and that is both more temporal things with the rain and the cloudiness, and then but with the people comes spiritual things as well. The first thing I would do if I went back to visit Seattle, not as a missionary, would be to go to the coast. It's so pretty, and it's just amazing, the view and what it feels like there. I never served on the coast, and I always wanted to know what it would be like because I've always loved the beach. And so that's one of the first things that I would do, is go to the coast. And thinking more of the missionary aspect, I would go visit the Compost family, and I would visit the Cougar Mountain ward where the Compost family live. I loved all my areas, but that one had the greatest impact on me, and I'm very grateful for it. And many of the missionaries and my mission president has changed since then, now being a year and a half returned. But if they were still there, I'd go visit the mission president and the missionaries too. The food was interesting on my mission in Seattle. When my second mission president came, it was all Korean food. Almost every transfer meeting, zone conference, mission leadership council. So I got very used to Korean food, and I never had Korean food before. But my perception of the food before I went to Seattle was all Asian food, like seafood. And it wasn't so much that until my second mission president came, when we got all the Korean food. But there's not as much seafood as one might think before they go. Living in Seattle was rainy, and I got to ride in the car my whole mission. A lot of other missionaries were on bikes or walking, depending on if you're in the city, downtown, on University of Washington campus, or just in the neighborhood where you're on a bike. But I was blessed to be able to have a car my whole mission. And so transportation was easy, although I got my car towed and ran into a couple times. And there was bus. There's a lot of metro transit there that missionaries would take when they're downtown. Fun fact, I guess you could say, about my mission, or the Washington-Seattle mission, is you may learn to eat with chopsticks. I didn't know how to use chopsticks before, especially with an Asian mission president, President Sister Che being from South Korea. I learned how to eat with chopsticks, and I remember one time we were eating in their home, in the mission home, and when we'd go to, by the way, Seattle has the best teriyaki places that you can find on the map. So they provide you with chopsticks there, and they're wooden chopsticks. And so I got used to using wooden chopsticks, and then we went to the mission home, and President Che told us we had to use metal chopsticks, flat metal chopsticks, so they're slippery and they slipped out of your hands. But be ready to use chopsticks. I loved each of my areas that I served in. I started in Skyway, which is South Seattle. It was ghetto-ish area, but I'm very grateful for it. And the other areas that I served in, I went from Skyway, which was South Seattle, to Issaquah, which is just east of Bellevue, which is east of downtown Seattle. And then from Issaquah, I went to Bothell, which is north of Seattle, in Woodinville. And from there, I went to Cougar Mountain, and then from there I went to Bellevue. And so I spent a lot of my time in each of my areas, more in suburban areas where there are families. Skyway wasn't so much that way, but the other 4 areas were. And I loved every single one of them. Everyone was unique and different. The words were different. The people were different. Their desire to do missionary work was different, depending on where you were. And I loved every single one of them. I still am in contact with the people there. The last area I served in was Bellevue, and I loved being downtown Bellevue. It's kind of like the utopia of Seattle. It's a cleaner version of Seattle. It's similar to Salt Lake City, but a little bit bigger, I would say. And there are many different people in just the heart of Bellevue. So that was just fun to end my mission there. We worked a lot on the streets and in the transit areas. And Issaquah and Bellevue, or Issaquah and Bothell were more knocking door to door. Skyway was more contacting. So every area differed depending on the layout of the city or the town. And I loved every single one of them. One thing that I learned from both of my mission presidents and their wives and counselors was the importance of both following and leading as a missionary leader. Following your mission leaders, and when you're called, and if you're called or not, as a specific missionary leadership position, to be a leader, whether it's through obedience, through example, through hard work, through having fun, with the Spirit, of course. And I had the opportunity to do both of those, to follow my leaders. Provided me with a great blessing and tender mercies along the way, that they helped me and they would receive really inspiration to help me, whether it was my companion or a district leader or my mission president. And the greatest leaders are the greatest followers are the greatest leaders. And I know that when one is given the position, a leadership position, we read in the scriptures that there could be a tendency to lead with unrighteous dominion. But I know as you lead with the Spirit and as you follow your mission president in every aspect and not question what he asked you to do, you'll be blessed for the rest of your life. And you will learn to follow your leaders after your mission. My mission has changed everything. Not changed everything, but provided me with everything that I need to live a happy life. And thus far it's been very happy since I returned from my mission. I've had challenges, yes, but through what I was able to learn through my mission of how to work through those challenges has blessed me a lot. I mentioned this earlier, but my second mission president really focused upon having high expectation, and that means a lot of different things in a lot of different areas of our lives. But it really changed helped develop my outlook on life and what I want to gain. And my testimony, I want to have a high expectation testimony, and I know that with that strong testimony it will help me and my family get through any challenge, find the most happiness that is possible in this life through keeping the commandments and doing what is right. I know Elder Holland says that his mission meant everything to him, and my mission meant everything to me. It provided me with that trampoline to the next 80 or so years of my life. My first companion was a great blessing, and also he was crazy. And he would like that I say that. No, but I love him. So in my first area, it was more of a ghetto-ish area in Skyway. And one crazy experience that I can remember is like 8:55, and he was so diligent. He's like, "We've got 5 minutes. We got to go out and find someone." And so he parked the car and he runs to like an alleyway, and it's like pitch black. And there's a man standing against the wall, had his headphones in, listening to music. And with his head down, and I was more hesitant to talk to him. But Elder Yamashita goes up, taps on his shoulder, is more of like it's kind of a slap on his shoulder, and he whips his head around, and he wasn't happy at all. I won't repeat some of the things that he said, but he asked Elder Yamashita, "Do you have permission to touch me?" And he asked him like 3 times. And Elder Yamashita had just been learning English for maybe a year, so he didn't know what he was saying. And so I said to the man, "No, he doesn't have permission to touch you." And then he said, "I didn't ask you." And then he goes back to Elder Yamashita and asks, "Do you have permission to touch me?" And so somehow we get out of it. But by the end of him asking if Elder Yamashita had permission to touch him, I don't know if he did, but he was about to reach into either his pants or the inside of his coat for something. So we got out of there, we ran faster than we ever or were running before. And Elder Yamashita was more comfortable in those situations because of his background and where he's from, where he came from. But me, we got in the car and I was like, "Do you know what just happened? Like, did you understand what he was saying?" Just asking him questions. He's like, "Oh yeah, we better go home." And that was probably the first crazy experience that I had. A temporal or life skill that I gained from the mission was the ability to communicate with people and listen. I feel like that's a very important skill to have, especially what I want to do as far as career-wise, working with people in the business area, listening and talking with people effectively was a great blessing. The ability to greater understand other people's culture and where they come from and have joy in it, and not have kind of a weird perception of it, but just like take it in and love it, was really neat. I gained a love for Asians through that. I married an Asian. Another life skill that I gained was, or that I appreciate from my mission, was having a better and good attitude in all situations. Just a positive attitude. My second mission president really focused on having high expectations in all situations, and that has been a great blessing after my mission. The most challenging experience on my mission came in my second area when I was called early on to be a trainer. Not necessarily because of the missionary, but because I was so new to the mission. I had just gotten done with my training, and the next transfer I was called to be a trainer and district leader. And I don't say that to boast of my responsibilities. I say it to explain that it was a challenge, that it was a real growth area, that I'm very grateful for. And my companion was great. He was a new missionary, and he had his own things that he was working through, and I was just trying to figure out how to be a missionary while helping him figure out how to be a missionary. It was in the wintertime, it was raining every single day, so a lot of things that could seem like a disadvantage. And how I was able to make it through it was that first transfer of training him was when I finished the Book of Mormon for the first time, reading it on my mission, and it was huge. It was early on in the transfer, and it just provided me with so much strength and provided me with guidance, the Book of Mormon and prayers, to know that it's true each day. I was really focused on that, is praying to know it was true every single day that I finished reading. And it was amazing. I was blessed also with zone leaders who were very helpful when we'd go on exchanges, when I was a district leader. So that was the first most challenging experience on my mission. And looking back now, it prepared me for my next kind of area that I was supposed to, or next goal I wanted to get to. And I also had another challenging experience later on in my mission, about a year in a different area, that prepared me for something else in the future. So I know that through each challenge, it prepares us for a greater blessing that's ahead. One of the strongest spiritual experiences on my mission was probably my last day when I left the mission, and my last week. I was with 2 other companions, and everything that I had learned on my mission had been being acted upon that last week. Everything was going well, and we were seeing success. And coming down to the last day of my mission, my flight was postponed, so I got to spend extra time with my mission president and his wife in the airport. And that was a really special experience. And then when they dropped me off, or allowed me to go through the security line and off, I wasn't with other missionaries, I was just by myself. And that was one of the strongest spiritual experience of my life so far, was just having that confirmation that my mission was complete, and that it was whole, and that there was nothing missing, and that everything happened that was supposed to happen. Because my natural self felt like, could I have done better in this area? How could I have improved in this area? Was there something that I missed that I was supposed to learn? But after that experience, when they let me go, it wasn't anything they said. It was the Spirit that told me that it was complete, it was whole, and it was perfect for me. That was the most recent missionary spiritual experience on my mission, so it's the biggest in my head right now. Every major change or minor change that took place spiritually for me on my mission was only possible through Jesus Christ. And I can look back at all the specific experiences that I had, whether when I'm reading my journal, or they just come to me, or it's sparked by somebody that I see. It's only through Jesus Christ that those were possible. And through that, the biggest spiritual change that took place was my testimony of Jesus Christ. They grew. Elder or sister so-and-so that just got called to the Washington, Seattle mission, you will love it. You will love the rain, you will love the food, you will love the people, you will love every aspect of it. It may not come immediately, but you will grow to love it, and you will be grateful for it for the rest of your life. You will love your mission president and your companions, whether they're easy to work with, hard to work with. You will be blessed with tender mercies that are meant for you on your mission in Seattle. Be ready to work hard, not just in the Seattle mission, but in every single mission. The Lord has asked us to work hard as missionaries, and allow yourself to grow and be obedient. You can start by preparing now and being exactly obedient to your leaders, to your parents, and to the commandments, and that will provide you with the greatest faith that you will need to go into your mission.